Welcome to the 7D.
Nuts.
Who was the president of 1970, you may ask? And we have an answer for you.
Richard Nixon.
Richard Nixon was president from 1969 to 1974. Now I'm going to explain some major things he did during his term. He improved America's relationships with the USSR and China. He also put in action the Clean Air and Clean Water Act to improve the environment. He also ended school segregation, which was a pretty big deal. And finally, he sent military to Cambodia, Vietnam, which started the Vietnam War.
Also in 1970, the Beatles broke up. Now entering into the year 1971. In this year, America saw the beginning of the digital age because the microprocessor was invented. This is the machine that pretty much makes your computer work. Without it, your computer wouldn't work. And so, with this machine being invented, it allowed for people to start using and experimenting with more electronics. For example, calculators.
Also in 1971, Disney World opened. Coming into 1972, two major events that occurred in 1972 are the first, the U.S. bombed North Vietnam on Christmas Day, and the second is that 11 Israelites athletes were killed at the Munich Olympics, along with 5 terrorists and a police officer. That's not a thumbs up. That's a thumbs down.
Also in 1972, Rich Hellman's mayonnaise was only $1.39. Now, coming across to 1973. Many different and interesting events took place in 1973. The first tragic event was that U.S. car makers, including Chrysler, began closing many of their plants and over 100,000 people lost their job. Another important event was called the Battle of the Sexes tennis match, which was a woman, Billie Jean King, against a man, Bobby Riggs. This was the first tennis match that included 2 sexes, and evidently the woman won.
Also in 1973, the first space station, Skylab, is launched. Introducing 1974. There were some major milestones that occurred in 1974, and here are just a few. Beverly Johnson became the first black woman model to appear on the cover of Vogue or any other well-known fashion magazine. President Richard Nixon is also resigned from being president after the Watergate scandal. The Watergate scandal was a break-in at the DNC, and Nixon and his team tried to cover it up.
Also in 1974, World Population Day began.
7.4 billion people on the world, people.
Getting things rolling onto 1975. One big and important crisis happened this year. Doctors went on strike, which reduced hospital services. They went on strike because they wanted to be able to do private work but weren't allowed. So they began limiting their work to emergencies only, which the government disagreed with. This led them to go on strike. Obviously, doctors going on strike was not good, considering that they save a lot of people's lives.
Now let's talk about 1976. 1976 is the year that will impact our modern history the most. This was the year that Steve Jobs and Steve Wozniak created the Apple Computer Company. People didn't know at the time, but the Apple Company would shape how we do everything in the future. The Apple Company led to many new inventions such as the cell phone, laptops, and even watches that connect to the internet.
Also in 1976, the $2 bill was issued, and now it is less used, and only 1% of bills are $2 bills. But suck it, I still have one. Now, paved the way for 1977. In the middle of the year, the instant of the New York blackout happened. This was during a thunderstorm when a strike of lightning hit some very important transmission lines, therefore making electricity in New York go out, hence why it's called the New York blackout. During this blackout, there was much vandalism, looting, and rioting. Luckily, 24 hours later, the power was restored. Also, another important event that happened in 1977 was that the U.S. gave the Panama Canal back to Panama.
Also in 1977, ice cream was only 37 cents. Hey, it's 1978! And if I'm being completely honest, this year was not exciting at all. The only somewhat exciting thing was that the world's first test tube baby was born. And if you're like me, and you have no idea what this means, listen up. A test tube baby is a baby that is conceived by in vitro fertilization. Now I'm very surprised that I had to Google that because I did a project on it last year. Getting back on topic, in vitro fertilization was a very important event in history. It opened up many different opportunities for parents to have children.
Also in 1978, bikes were only $110.
Please don't hit me. I can't. Okay.
Let's get things rolling to the last year of the 70s, called 1979. So, there were a few tragic events taking place in this year. First off, 13 tornadoes ripped through Oklahoma and Texas in just this year. Also, 63 Americans were taken hostage at the American Embassy in Tehran. The last tragic thing that happened was that an airplane crashed and exploded near the O'Hare Airport in Chicago.
Also in 1979, Michael Jackson released Off the Wall.
Save a lot of people's lives.
Also in 1975, also in 1979,